Sundar Pichai. We're
Your
gonna
boy.
get a little bit of Google news. This article, I chose this random article. It's been floating around, but I chose to use this small article. This the small news site. Udemix, however you spell, like Udemy IX. So Udemix. Yeah. Article reads: Google executives complain about CEO Sundar Pichai. And it mostly goes into, what I've been saying earlier, what I complained about a couple months back about Sundar Pichai being like he kind of too passive and this is just a complete op-ed opinion. I mean, it's that it's like he's not making the moves that you remember coming out of Google from the past earlier, generation of Google when they first started. Things don't seem as like innovative, and there was these special things. There was all these what they used to call them like moonshot projects, all these crazy things that used to come out of there. After he took over, for the most part, like 2015, it didn't really seem to it don't really seem to happen anymore. And
it ain't popping no more.
Yeah, it seemed real steady. And Google doing a lot of things. They got Google, Chromebook. Chrome is probably the number one web browser. Android is the number one platform. They got all this ad money. Yeah, I mean, and they got the cloud. They compete with every major market. They collect probably as much, if not more, data than Facebook. They have everything on lock when it comes to what they should be doing. But it seems like they have gotten like a lot stabler, and it seems like they're not really making any moves, which sort of, it reminds you of companies like IBM or Intel in that way, where they become more like of an institute, and instead of being like one of these fast startups making breaking news every week.
It becomes more something like this. Like the IBM, it's more like an infrastructure type of thing where, it's a, if you think about it, maybe if you were to open up your laptop, if you're on that level of tech, you oftentimes will find something from some of these companies, but they don't have that spice that, that would give them the, like you said, that startup feel, or that, that progressive type of really something that, I would say if a person is indulging and makes them like, it has some type of, how can I put it? For example, like if you're dealing with Apple or, the Googles and stuff like that, depending upon what you're using and how you're using it, it has something to do with the social hierarchy. Like some folks feel like if you're an Apple user, you use iPhones, you're over here, same thing with your Droids. You get what I'm saying? But for like your IBMs and all that, they don't fall within that. So, with Sundar Pichai got going on, I think that by him coming into, Google, be it that I feel like they've always kind of had that energy, but how he's been moving and shaking it's been regressing in some way, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, and it's come to the detriment that with like 15 executives. I'm not sure what level of executives. I thought I heard that they were VPs, but I might not be sure. But that 15 different executives basically wrote a letter to Sundar Pichai, just explaining or complaining about all the different ways of how the company just seems like it's being stagnant, or it's been stagnated for a while, and no innovation is coming out of it, and that they seem like they're missing out on deals. One of the things that you were talking about was like how they missed out on this big deal with potentially buying Shopify to be competition with Amazon. And Amazon basically, Shopify, they missed out on the deal because Pichai said that it wasn't really worth it. And since then, Shopify has basically went up in like 10 times worth of value. And like they completely missed out on the deal for real. And they still trying to find a way to compete against Amazon.
It was right there.
And it's like, that's a thing. That was a market that was right there for them to capture. It was in the industry that they in, they usually don't necessarily come up with new innovations all the time as much as they buy companies, like Facebook buys companies, Amazon buys companies, Microsoft, they just buy companies. And Google hasn't really bought a major company in that light.
There's a
in
couple
a
of them that they
while.
said that they feel like Google is missing out on, because I know there were talks about like Google should they would they were saying, I heard, I forgot where I seen the article or who said it, but Target, of course, there's been this age old, battle between Target and Walmart, right? I mean,
Mhm.
well, it was Kmart. A lot of other ones just felt, they wasn't able to stand up to the swift sword swing of Walmart, and they're no longer here with us, right? I can't remember last time I heard somebody going to a Kmart, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, Target has still been around,
I think
their
I
branding
went
was
to a
solid.
recent Kmart. I bought a bike from Kmart. No,
Wait a
actually, I bought a bike from
minute.
Target. I bought it from Target. I ain't gonna lie, I bought it from Target.
That's what I'm saying. That's the point. And they were saying that, like, as far as what Target got going on, how Google was able to step in to buy that company, right? Because they can afford it, buy
Mhm.
that company, and then have that integration in it. It's like it would skyrocket them, as well as it would just become something much more grand. But
Yeah, what they've been
they
trying
don't.
to find ways to not get into the retail business. They really try because they work with Google Cloud, and they'll. I know when I went to some of their events, like Home Depot would be their biggest partnership, and Walmart would be their partnership because they trying to compete against Amazon. So like they wouldn't necessarily buy out like Walmart or Target or anything, but they would work with all of them to fight against Amazon. I mean,
Mhm.
like they would try to just say, we trying to allow y'all to maintain y'all business, just being able to compete against Amazon, because that's the real problem.
Well,
And
so what's interesting about that, because I recall it, it was actually Gary Vee that was talking about that, how, like, for whatever I can't remember how he said it. I mean, that Gary Vee is a business genius, but he was saying how, like, Target is pretty much like like a hot commodity for a company to buy,
yeah,
that just people haven't jumped up on, but the only people who have been like trying to make moves and really move towards it has been Amazon. So I think
mhm,
that if, like, it would just further, like, if, say for instance, Amazon did put the right things in place and then they end up acquiring Target, I feel
yeah,
like that would probably, when it comes to like the retail space, at
yeah,
Google would
because
just be out. They'll be
that's
out of the race at
that's
completely.
the scary move, because right
Mhm.
now Amazon has been making big moves without having a retail space. I
Exactly.
mean, like they basically have killed every other market without having a retail space. All they got is warehouses for the most part and delivery service. If they just happen to offer all of their best offerings in those retails, like if they
Right.
bought Target and they turned them to Amazon stores and just said, these are the special things that we
Right.
got
This
for
is
sale.
your
I mean,
retailers. It's crazy. Like they'll put like if you're a Prime member, like they have something to go out and see, like, oh, your retailers, we have these things in the Amazon store now, like you can
right.
physically go pick up, so you don't gotta worry like that. Yeah, if they was to make that type of move, like, if they
Mhm.
look, if Amazon is listening to me, listen, like, I'm not no type of business expert and anything like that, but just based off of this sense we're talking here, like, if y'all was to do that, then Google would be completely out of the race. And I feel like what's interesting about what Sundar Pichai, it's wild how we can actually sit here and talk about this and see like this plan all the way through. But him being the CEO, like, it just seems that when it comes to stuff like this, like, there's not the innovation to expand the business is just not there with him. It's been lacking.
Yeah, I mean, I seen that a while ago that he took over. We talked about it a while ago that he took over being at the Alphabet CEO. So he runs all of Google, included with Alphabet, and they talked about how recently like he made some headway so that the different departments, the different companies don't necessarily need him to sign off on things as much anymore. So basically, in hope in potentiality, he can try to just be a chairman of a lot of things and not have to make the direct decisions on when somebody can buy a company. Like if they feel like they can make money off of Shopify and go ahead and buy something like Shopify, then they don't necessarily need him to sign off on that deal. Then that would be a good idea. But right now, he got his hands in too many pots that he probably don't really even want to deal with. Like he really came off of the Chromebook OS, the dealing with Chrome OS, Chromebooks, getting those out, getting that whole thing. He's more of a logic, what do you call a logistics kind of guy, kind of like how Tim Cook is in comparison to Steve Jobs
Oh, your
was.
boy Cook.
I mean, yeah. So like the innovation world ain't really where he's at. He's more of a get everything steady and in order and organized. I like how he's been able to potentially, like, we still trying to figure out a full deal, but like He's been able to try to organize, Google Chat and Duo to make those things that are popping off, but most of that has been him not getting involved. I mean, being able to get him out of the way. He's been able to get himself out of the way and get some things going. But the larger moves that Google need to be making, he kind of micromanaging a lot of stuff. So it is what it is, for real.
I think that's, but see, that's the thing though, and I know that, so with him, he got to the position because he was, to some degree, he was good. He was good. I mean, he still may be, but he was good at what he was hired for, right? But I'm just looking at it like, if you look at all of the other competing companies, the tech giants, right? You have your Microsoft and your Amazon now, which was, they kind of have that whole tech crossover thing, right? Because we starting off, we talking about starting off selling books, and now they do all this stuff. They got the web services going.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like with Google, like all of those companies, when you think about it, they have expanded or done something in a different market outside of just what they started off doing. But Google, I feel like is one of the few companies where like they have been able to stand strong. Like they've stood the test of time, but they haven't really pivoted much.
Yeah, besides search and ads, they don't do nothing that's like the number one of anything, for real. Right. Search and ads and Android phone. Well, I mean, yeah, I can't. I mean, and that's the thing. You can't really hard to say that, because the way you gotta, whenever they do those statistical metrics and stuff like that, there's always some way to say something. Because they could say they got 1 billion users on just Google Drive, then they got 1 billion users just use search, or they got 1 billion users that just use maps. I mean, like, then those can be all independent apps that they all get each 1 billion users on. Yeah. I mean, so like
it's $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, and they get $100 billion off of each one of them. Yeah, I mean, like, and it's all because all of those fall back to ads in some way. I mean, so like that's how they all kind of trickle back to ads. I think maybe not Google Drive, because that's independent. It's sort of like storage. It don't really have an ad system in place. I mean, but like,
but you gotta pay for that joint though.
But you gotta pay for it. Right, you gotta pay for it. Yeah, I mean, so money gotta come out. Yeah, I mean, somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, so like the things that they offer for the free market, those things make some money. But even then, like that ad model is going away sometime soon, one of these years. I mean, so that's what the whole big issue with their antitrust and getting caught in Congress is all about, is data collection. Y'all taking our data, using it for ad money. So that's going to eventually die out, and they got to actually have products to offer people. They got to have something that really speaks to the people that can't be turned over because it's an ad money system. Yeah, I mean, like, it has to be something else. And right now, like I said, they focus more on the stable foundations of things, having people use Chrome, having people use Android, and having people use their services. They'll figure out ways to make money, but he got a lot of people that's mad at him, and it's a lot of infighting. Yeah, I mean, that's not good. That's not really good to have. I mean, it can something can come out of it potentially, but just to have it happen, it means something else is going wrong that has to happen.
You never, I guess, as we
you don't hear about Apple and them fighting each other. I mean, that's all.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't hear about
somebody they just get thrown in the dungeon. I mean, you got to fight it out in the basement. Yeah, I mean,
Tim Cook is no longer with us anymore.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. I mean, all wish well to him. Yeah, I mean, you'll never see his face again. I mean, like, you don't know what happened to him, but things are good now. Like that's how they handle it. Is Google. It's just a lot of talk being talked right now, and it's not good when it's like the top tier when they got all this other stuff going on, because they got a lot of issues going on that could stop the money at any time.
And when it's constantly in the media as well.
Yeah, and it's in the news.